Okay, here's another area that's a little weak on the door, and you have a possibility of maybe getting shimmed and opened. This is a extra safety lock on it. Let me see if I can zoom in a little for you. Has that extra pin on there, you've probably seen them. And once that's in, that keeps that from going in the whole way. So now you can push it in. With that pin there, you can't. It only goes a certain. So anyway, it shouldn't be able to be shimmed. You have that and a deadbolt down below. Okay, and what I'm going to do is cover that area with a 1/8 inch steel plate, and I'm going to bring it just a paper thickness away from the jamb there. Then I'm going to mark this off and clean all the paint out, sand it out, scuff it up, because when I glue this down, I don't want it to stick to paint, I want it to stick to the door. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pre-drill, put these screws in. They're 1.5 inches extra thick. They're 1/4 inch at the widest part and 1.5 inches long. So I countersunk, so that should help. Okay, a very weak spot is the door jamb here, and I put in an 1/8 inch steel plate 2 inches wide with screws, heavy duty steel screws, not drywall screws. Okay, drywall screws will shear off, they'll crack. These will bend and twist and have a hard time breaking. They don't break, they'll just bend a lot, so they'll hold up pretty well. So I got rid of the striker plate that was there and made this whole 2-inch strip to cover the deadbolt and the regular latch, and it goes almost all the way to the bottom. The only reason it doesn't go all the way to the bottom because that's all the longer I had a piece. So, but countersink, put a bunch of screws in, you scuff the wood, scuff the metal, use construction adhesive, and get that in there nice and tight. Okay, onto the hinges. Here we go. We got super heavy 3-inch screws, okay, going all the way in. They're not drywall screws or anything short. They're not 1 inch. There's 3 2x4s and 2 layers of 3/4 ply in this wall. It's like cement, okay. Anyway, up here you got the same 3-inch screws going into the door, okay, that's mortised into the door here. Then I took one of these screws and ground it down, ground the head down, so you could still see, hopefully, the head on it. Maybe it'll focus. There it is. Okay, so you still have a Phillips head in there, and you could drive that in. So I drilled an extra hole there. I didn't want to lose a screw, okay, so I drilled another hole in here, put that screw in most of the way, okay, left it sticking out, and then drilled a hole into that hinge, okay. So now when this closes, it may be hard to see, but it goes into that hole perfectly. So you got to get it aligned just right to drop it into that hole, okay. See it down in there? Now, that keeps that hinge, and I did all three of them, okay, just the same. So there's a hole in there, and there's a pin right there that I screwed in. So pre-drill a hole pretty tight, and make sure that that goes in nice and tight, and that it matches that hole. Takes a little measuring, but you can obviously do it. I did it. Now you'll notice that the door opens out. Okay, there's a good reason for that. It's going to be a little harder to kick in with a door jamb all the way around. Okay, so that exposes these hinges. So you think, well, hey, that's a pretty weak point. All you got to do is pop those pins out. Well, normally, yeah. Here's a problem. I modified the hinges. Okay, what I did, if you just come over here, you can see that it's recessed in, but that's not a big deal. If yours is recessed, that's fine. If not, that's fine. Okay, you think this pin normally goes all the way down through. There's no head on this side, but there is on this. So you just tap it down in. That's how a hinge works. Somebody comes along, picks a screwdriver and a hammer, and decides they'll just pop the hinge off. Well, that's not going to happen. I cut this about a 1/4 inch down. So the pin, it's just a head with a little bit of pin, with a 1/4 inch shaft. The rest of the pin is still in there, and you think, well, okay, you pop this out, and they're a little disappointed because the whole pin is still in there. Well, they just push it down through with a nail, right, and a hammer. Not going to happen. On the back side of this hinge, I drilled a hole and took a drywall screw and screwed it in and ground it off. So now there's a hole through that pin so that it can't come down. Okay. In other words, somebody's really going to have to work on it to get this thing done. Well, okay, fine. The pin won't come out. Big deal. Well, they just take the grinder that they carry with them now, a battery operated grinder, just grind the hinge off. Well, that's not going to work because those pins that are down in there that I showed you earlier to go back into the thing, you can't pull the door out because there's a pin there. The pin holds the hinge. So even if they do get this pin out, even if they do cut it off, the door still can't come open. There's not enough play for the door to go sideways, okay? But that pin that's up in there is drilled into the back piece of that, the back plate of that hinge, which has 4 3-inch screws going into the 2x4 that's on the jack 2x4s or whatever you want to call them, for this doorway. So you're not going to get this door to pop out. I don't care if you drop the hinge, pop the pin, cut the hinge off. That pin that's in the doorway is not going to allow this door to slip out. It will not come out. And you're not going to pull it out. There's no way to get anything in there to pry. There's not enough room. So, having a door swing out sounds like a weak point unless you reinforce it. So, there you go. There's that door jamb. You can see the 1/8 inch steel plate. Okay, so you're not going to pull this. You're not going to smash it in with a one of those ramrods or whatever they call them for the doors. Okay, it's going to be pretty difficult to get into this door. At least it's going to take them longer. Nothing's impenetrable, but it's not going to be simple. They're going to have to work. Okay, you can see this door jamb is nailed with different nails all the way up. These are 16 penny nails here. These are 8s. This is 16, 8, 8. There's a 16 all the way up through. It's glued into the framework, and I'm telling you what, it's like cement. I mean, it's hard as a rock. So with everything here, with that eighth inch steel plate for a striker plate, the striker plate, I guess, is about 4 foot, 4.5 foot long, something like that. So yeah, that's not going anywhere for a while. Okay, if you're gonna drill some holes for that outside plate, make sure you have a stop. So when you drill through, you don't drill out the back side. Okay. Also, remember not to drill where you got screws. Okay. So think about that when you're setting up your plate. I got a couple more holes to drill, and we'll get that plate on. There you go. Put a little paint on that, and nobody will even know it's there. Well, maybe a little, but there you go. See, nothing pushed out. It's all good on the inside. Screws are back far enough from the end. Pre-drilled them. Yeah, that'll help hold that all together real nice, and keep people from trying to shim the lock. Just got to figure out what else to do that make it even better. Let me know if you think of something. Looks pretty good. I'm not the best painter, but it blends in anyway.